Welcome to the Weekend View. Today, we're talking about the brand new Bachelor and how far some women go to get his attention. Estás loco? Why one TikTok dating expert says when men are looking for love, they don't look very far. Plus, Lady Gaga is sharing how she handled audiences showing no love to her box office bomb, Joker 2. The Weekend View starts right now, Cha-Cha. To the Weekend View. So this week we met the brand new Bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
Get excited.
He's very cute.
His name is Grant Ellis. He's a former basketball player turned day trader who is a salsa dancer in his free time.
Can you be married and go on that show?
I don't think so.
Asking for a friend?
I don't think
It's
so.
frowned upon, but
that
there's
would be
always
called
a first.
the adulterer. And on the season premiere, the 25 women hoping to turn his head. Please pick me on not playing hard to get. Watch.
Canadians are known to be some of the friendliest people in the world.
Okay, so I've heard.
Yes. So I thought, why not introduce you to my no drama llama?
Do you mind if we take some photos?
I don't mind.
Okay.
Taking the selfies, right?
Oh, I actually mean of me, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I feel like my lifelong partner will know all of my angles.
Okay.
So give it your best shot.
All right, let's see how we do here. Okay, different pose. Here we go. There we go. That we do
How
look
good
We do look
Look
good.
at you in the bow tie.
Right.
And then 3 to 5 years later, no pressure at all, honestly. We find ourselves here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I don't agree. I think that men do not like a desperate woman, and that's what's coming through there. Am I wrong?
Wait,
You think because you think going on a reality show to compete for a man doesn't scream desperate ab initio?
No, I have had friends go on The
seasons.
Bachelor.
You have?
Yes, she only made it
Are they
one
thirsty
episode,
and
though.
desperate?
Okay, I am pro llama. I actually thought that was adorable, and she got
Llama
the
spit.
She got the first impression rose because on top of bringing a llama, she's
not a
gorgeous.
live animal.
My husband would never take me on another date if I had showed up on the first one. Was like, take pictures of me. Like, you're asking to turn a man
I
off
don't believe
with
in
that.
making big first impressions. I would not want that, Rose. I believe in under-promising and over-delivering.
Yes.
Let them, think so little of you that you wow their pants off because they don't know what's coming.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I'm not gonna do like tricks and stuff like that. I'm not jumping through
You're not gonna
hula
do the
hoops and
splits for
hula
them?
hoops. I'm not doing any of that. I will say, with Manny, I did hide a little bit of my crazy, like my jealous rage and stuff like that. I hid that.
But then it came out. Remember that time you didn't pick up the phone?
It ended up coming out
But
when
he's already hooked at that point.
But he was hooked.
That's the key. You
I
can't
already
show it
had
up front.
hooked him.
So when you threw the phones into the street to be run over...
When he hung up on me?
When that happened?
Yeah.
How did that land?
Do y'all know that story? Manny hung up on me, and so I went to his house. There was a key underneath the mat. It was stupid of him to do that. I took the key. I went into his entire house, and I took
all
every
the
single
phones.
phone on every single floor, including the answering machine. And then I bundled them up, and I threw them in the middle of the street. And I watched as the cars drove over all of his equipment, and I just sat on his front porch because we were in Maryland, and I waited for him to come home. And then he came home, and he saw the remains of his telephones, and he said, "What the hell?" And I said, "Well, you don't have phone etiquette, so you don't deserve phones because you like to hang up on people."
And he married you anyway.
He kind of like took a pause with me, and that's...
How long had you been going out before you pulled this stunt?
We had been going out a year.
Oh,
Wait,
so
so
he must
Dr.
have loved
Manny
her at that
stayed
point.
because the other option was probably death.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I do know llamas, and they can be very, very dangerous. I know the Dalai Lama. He was great in bed. Okay, do not say that about the Dalai Lama. You're going to go straight to hell.
I never met him.
You never met the Dalai Lama? Maybe I did once.
One of my
I'm sure
favorite-
you've met the Dalai Lama.
One of the best things on The Bachelor, too, is they make up these, like, kind of fake careers for people who don't have real jobs.
those little
That's always my
Yes,
favorite.
they
It'll
do.
be, like, skincare enthusiast. It's like, that's not a job. Like, what is it that you do all day?
Did you guys watch Unreal, though?
Yes.
It's a reality... It's a scripted show about the staff behind an unscripted show like The Bachelor. The amount of producing that goes on.
Yeah.
Funny.
Woo!
Well, and now
it
Sarah
is.
doesn't trust anyone
I don't
here.
trust anyone. I don't let them come into my room. I'm like,
All right.
producers be
Can you
warned.
please clarify that you didn't go out with the Dalai Lama?
She went
I mean,
out
I'm feeling like I need good karma.
No. He seems nice.
I met him when he was in Miami, and
It was just a joke. I
he's
never
got
slept
this
with the
vibe.
Dalai Lama.
Thank you.
And that's the headline, Joy Behar.
Read it like they wrote it. I did not.
Now, all of these theatrics from Bachelor contestants may be for nothing, according to TikTok star and dating coach Sabrina Zohar. She says that timing is everything when it comes to finding the one. Watch.
It has nothing to do with love half the time. It is proximity and timing. You could literally be the most incredible and mind-blowing human being to ever exist. If a guy doesn't want a relationship or just isn't ready, he's not going to see you any differently. Just because an ex that you might have been with ends up getting a girlfriend after doesn't necessarily mean it was a better connection. That just means that they were ready, and that was the person at the proximity and timing that was there for them when it happened.
I think she has a point about timing and proximity. Let's take the case of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was married, you know the story. He was married to Maria Shriver.
Yes,
Being a
Kennedy.
big old cheat with the housekeeper, Mildred Baena.
Yeah.
She cleaned his house. She was there. She was there. Why go out and look for something when the housekeeper is willing to sleep with you?
Yeah.
I believe she's half right.
That's called proximity.
I think that timing is one of the single most important things in a relationship. If I'd met my husband 2 years prior, I would have been too immature, too distracted. But I don't believe the proximity. Like, we had to do almost 2 years of long distance, but we were committed and we showed up for each other. I don't think it's that you just, like, stumble into your next door neighbor and are like, you're here. That won't last. You have to actually put work in on the front end and care
Well, in
enough.
that speed talk she did, she said half the time. And then, right? And then so that gets us the other half is not, because I mean, people have affairs.
Yeah.
And that's not good timing. If you're married to somebody else or involved with somebody else and fall in love with somebody else, I would say that's bad timing.
Yeah, but
it might be proximity, but bad timing.
But you know, there's a famous song that I consider very important to me in my first marriage.
Yeah.
When you can't be with the one you love the one you're with.
That's right. That's right, Joy.
No, I got to tell you, I think this,
And that is why Joy Behar is divorced.
yes, I think this lady is absolutely right. You know, one of my friends, Kathy, told me about men, because we're talking about men. We're not talking about men and women. We're talking about men. She said, listen, Sonny, this is what's going on with your dating life. Because I was liking this guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't like me back. And she said, he's not, yeah, it was a horrible experience. And so she said, this is the problem.
Yeah.
Men are like New York taxi cab drivers.
Oh, I know.
When the taxi's light is
That's right.
on,
That's
you
right.
can get in, you can catch him. But if the light is off, it's over. It doesn't matter.
But you have to wear your
Over
light.
before-
You have to wear the light. Say, I'm available.
But no, I don't even think it's that.
Better yet, call an Uber.
Men are different.
Let Sarah get in here before I take a break.
I don't even know what to
What do you
say
want
at
to
this
say?
point.
All right, you don't want to talk?
New York taxi cab.
All right,
Hitchhike, Sarah.
we'll be right back.
The Weekend View is sponsored by Rock Skincare.
Well, I am Gaga for Lady Gaga. Are you? I love her. I think she's so talented.
Yeah.
And she just told Elle magazine how she handled starring in one of the biggest flops of 2024, Joker 2. I didn't even know that, but it's a bomb. Oh. Yeah. She said everyone has to accept that they won't always succeed, but no one should let the fear of failure damage them. Oh, really? That's tough.
It is tough.
I mean, get a lousy review, it could happen. It affects you. You can't help yourself.
I will say, so I saw it and I didn't enjoy it, but it had nothing to do with a lack of talent. Like, it's Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, two of the best artists of our generation.
Right.
It's just very dystopian, and I think we're living in a moment where there's just not an appetite for it. But what I am thrilled for is her new album, Mayhem, coming out in March, which is she's never had a bad song. Like, this is a person who's just such a great artist that she will bounce back from it, and that is part of life. Everyone fails as much as they succeed.
You know,
What about you? Have you had a bad experience with a failure?
I've probably had more experiences with failure than success.
I definitely have.
Yeah. And you learn more from failure.
They say that.
I was going to say that. I mean, when I got fired from CNN, when they didn't renew my contract one time. They hired me back
She
later.
holds on. The girl holds on to a grudge.
I was very devastated over it because I had never been fired like that, you know, from what I thought was my dream job. And honestly, I learned so much from that failure. I learned that I learned that I can fail, I can be fired, and I can pick myself back up again and be okay. That's like invaluable. That's invaluable.
Well, and not only can you pick yourself up, but in my experience, I've gone on to better things after I'm fired.
Same.
And better men.
I've been fired.
You've gone on to better things and better men.
Yes, that's true too. But every time I've been fired, I've gotten a better deal, better gig.
Same. I got a better deal.
It motivates you.
You know what, though? So Lady Gaga is a Sacred Heart girl. She went to 91st Street here in New York. Yeah, no, I went to the Sacred Heart in Miami.
Yeah.
She went to the Sacred Heart here in New York. And those nuns, and I think it's the experience also of going to an all-girls school, they just instill such confidence in you that you can do anything and be anything because it's just, you know, women. There's nobody there's no guys that are tearing you up or that you're competing with or that are distracting you. And I think that's part of what you're seeing reflected in her. I always say all the good things I learned from the Sacred Heart nuns. All the bad things I learned from Cuban men.
Yeah.
Well, I would say no one that's done anything great in their life avoided taking risks. And I had the most embarrassing moment on live TV. I used to work with
when you fell.
That was
that was Joy.
I also
she
got
threw
dropped
herself at
by
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. It was awful.
Oh, yeah.
But no, even more embarrassing. So when I was with Kathy Lee and Hoda, they used to let me pitch segments, and they were really good to me. And I pitched this comedy segment that was like Joel McHale's segment on a morning TV show. I don't know why I thought we could pull this off. It failed so bad that not one single person would look me in the eye when I got done. Even the crew members who I was friends with.
Well, how bad was it really?
Oh, Joy.
Horrible.
Horrible.
We'll look it up. It's on the internet.
Well, Kathy Lee and Hoda were sitting there, and they were like, what is this?
But you have to take the chance
Is this
to do
before or
it.
after they started drinking wine?
Well, they never stopped drinking wine. So if you don't stop, you never have to start.
So how did you deal with it?
I felt myself turn purple, and I felt like I've never felt such a visceral response. And as I walked out, I just wanted to disappear and be invisible. And I didn't know if I'd be able to come back to work the next day, but you have to.
You have to.
And knowing that you actually do survive, as uncomfortable as that is
very valuable.
I think this is an interesting conversation because we're not in Gen Z, any of us. Are you?
No, I'm a millennial.
Okay, well, Gen Z.
My kids are Gen Z.
Gen Z does not want to be stuck in a workplace grind for decades before they retire. So they are periodically micro-retiring, leaving their jobs for an extended period to pursue their passions, travel, or just take a breath.
That's a good gig if you can get
it. So like, what are they, in their 20s? They're
in their 20s.
So their 20s, they have a job at the bank, let's say, and they say, you know, I'm bored with this interest rates. I think I'll go to Yugoslavia. It doesn't exist anymore, but I'll try it anyway. That's what they're doing?
How can they afford this? There was not a time in my 20s that I could miss one paycheck, much less multiple paychecks. I think you have to be working in a bank to take a few weeks off. But I feel very strongly, Scott Galloway, who we've had on the show before, and I think we all love. He's brilliant. He always says, young in your career is the time to grind, because days you take off, someone's grinding harder, showing up more, working more. It's later when you've earned your keep that you can afford to kind of do the work-life balance. And that's advice that I internalized when I was young, and I would recommend
I
to
think
Gen Z.
COVID changed a lot of people. I think COVID affected a lot of people because there were so many people that worked their entire lives, never really did something that made them happy, and then they died. And so I think a lot of young people saw that. Well, I mean, well, you guys, did you live through COVID, or was I the only person living through COVID and watching people die?
You're right.
The point is, a lot of young people decided we're going to do something that makes us happy.
Yeah. I'm supportive of it if you have financially planned to do that, right? Like if somebody's working at a bank and they're every day thinking, I am not walking in my path, I am not walking in my passion. When I get up, I don't want to go to work. If you're having that kind of feeling, and I think all of us have had that kind of day.
I have it every day.
Yeah, well, you're having it right now.
You just start planning for it. And I think this generation is so much more in touch with their feelings and their emotions that they
Some
know
people say
the
they're
deal.
spoiled.
Well,
Some
they're
people-
also one of the first
know.
generations that aren't going to do better than their parents.
Yeah.
I think so.
Why not be happy?
I had a friend, producer.
Millennials are actually the first generation.
Oh, okay. Sorry, one generation behind. I'm guessing they're also not.
That's your generation.
That's my
generation.
Sorry, but I had a producer friend that was. She's not Gen Z, but she and her husband were debating whether they wanted to have kids. They picked up, saved, and went around the world for a year. And I remember everyone said, "Oh my God!" Like it kind of planted the seed of should we all be doing something like
I want to do it.
I love it if you've made a plan to do it.
Can
I do
take
agree
a year
with
off,
that.
Brian?
You know, by the way, I feel like we've picked a lot on bank workers today. There's a lot of very happy bank workers. We love you too. Thank you.
Just the first thing that came into my mind. That's all.
Yeah.
I know, but there's people who are happy.
Yeah.
Doing grinding every day. And that's fine too.
I admire anybody who loves their job, no matter how boring it would be to me.
The paycheck
Which is every job, including maybe her own.
I gotta go. We'll be right back.
The Weekend View is sponsored by Rock Skincare.
I sat down with Brian on the Behind the Table podcast this week, so check it out. You know, when I first got into the industry, I wanted to be an actress. I took classes at HB Studios and everything, and I was pretty good, but it's not me. I couldn't be myself. I wanted to be myself. That's why I did stand-up comedy.
I feel like I would have enjoyed trying to act as a kid.
Well, you would have been funny in a lot of sitcoms. I see you in many sitcoms.
Oh, well, thank you.
Who's the boss? Not me.
Yeah, being made a fool of. I think that's right up there. We had Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer on the show. She was terrific, I thought. She talked about advice her grandmother gave her. And she said, work hard, don't get married until you're 28, and never part your hair in the middle.
Grandparents.
Would you agree with all these things?
My mother used to go, don't spit up in your hair, air, it comes back in your face. She also said, God takes the wrong ones. And she was looking at my father at the same time.
Meaning, should have taken your father?
Her doctor died. And she looked at my father and she said, God takes the wrong ones. Poor daddy.
Wow, your mom.
He used to laugh. He never cared about anything she said. No. She'd like make a dinner and he'd say, she's experimenting on me.
I see where you get it from. Are you more like your dad or your mother?
I'm more like my father.
Yeah.
My father's side was nastier than my mother's.
You're critical of your father a lot, so I'm curious that you're more like him.
Well, he was a compulsive gambler who ruined my life by not. We didn't have a house. We couldn't go on vacation. I didn't go to camp.
Right.
All those things. The only reason I would go to Springfield, Mass, is because my cousins lived there. I was like a fresh air kid because they didn't believe in camp. They believed in stoop. You basically sat on the stoop.
You went to stoop for the summer.
I went to stoop. Played jacks all summer. That was my life. But my father, he was a very funny guy, and he belonged to these clubs in the neighborhood. One of them was called the Bugs Athletic Club. Trust me when I tell you, they were not athletic. And I'd run into the members and they'd say, your father's hilarious. I'd say, really? Where is he at home? He
was never funny at home?
He doesn't. He hardly talked. When he was outside, he was the bon vivant.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
We have a listener question from Maya in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I have found myself consumed by the election and daily breaking news, and it feels like it will be this every day for the next 4 years. It's like you wrote a letter. I know you fuel your creative brain with writing.
Right.
What advice do you give to others on how to take a break from the news, what to do?
Listen, creativity to me is the opposite of depression. So anything that you can do, and I always recommend people go back to school. There's always adult classes in your neighborhood somewhere. Take a class. Take an art history class. Learn why Leonardo da Vinci became an artist. You want to know the story?
Tell me.
Because he was illegitimate.
Oh.
Because he was illegitimate, he did not have to follow his father, who was to become a notary, which in Italy, a notary is a big job. Here, it's not that big a job. But there, it's like a lawyer or some kind.
I do find you can never find one when you need one, a notary.
No, you never find a notary. Yeah. But you also never find a genius, which is what he was. Beyond to compare a genius.
Yeah.
And we would never have known about him if his mother didn't get knocked up. End of story. Now, these are the kinds of things you can learn in an art history class.
All right.
Why wouldn't you go?
All right, so there you go. Take an art history class.
Right, or take a drawing class.
Right, something to engage your mind in something else.
You know what? If you can't draw, take an abstract drawing class. That's my next thing I want to do.
Really?
I don't have enough years on this planet to do what I want to do.
I like that you're so engaged with everything, though. It's
I'm
great.
very engaged.
Yeah. All right. Let's get your take on this. Miley Cyrus and Pamela Anderson. They sat down for a recent interview
Are they a
with each
couple
other.
now?
No,
I wish.
Yeah. And Miley said, quote, "I've had so many different pivots and evolutions, and one might say detours within my path, but it always ends up coming back around to make the next stage of who we are." Have your detours through your life kind of helped you get where you are today?
Detours?
Yeah, things that have like moved you on.
Like
for
you're on this
like when you
path?
got fired from the View.
It's the best thing.
Yeah.
I got fired. I got fired from teaching.
Yeah.
They didn't renew my contract in Rhode Island one time. And then I worked in Long Island. I got pregnant that time. And then another time I was fired from Good Morning America. I was fired from this show. I've been fired a lot.
Yeah.
And every single time I was fired, I did something more interesting.
That's kind of the point. And the detours might actually be for a reason.
I'm a good example of that because I've done it over many times. And I'm a good example of starting late. I started on my career when I was like 35 years old, not when I was 20. And as a comedian, it's better to start later because you have more things to talk about.
Do you have a path not taken? Is there one thing you're like, I wish I had done this?
No.
One thing you wonder about, well, if I had done this, maybe things would have been better or different. I know what it is.
What?
It's the Caroline Ray, Rosie O'Donnell show, right? I'm right, aren't I?
Well, that would have been more money.
Yeah. So you had a chance to maybe take over after Rosie O'Donnell.
Hillary McLaughlin wanted me to do it. When
Rosie O'Donnell
left
her
the
daytime show.
They came to me and asked me if I wanted to do it.
Yes.
And I had this job.
Right.
And a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush,
Right.
as they say.
Yeah.
And so I stayed here. And then what happened was Caroline Ray took it over, and I don't know if it lasted. So I probably would have gone off the air anyway.
You never know, but it is kind of a path untraveled that I'm
It
interested
is.
in.
I'm sorry I didn't do that
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah, I don't know.
That was you know what? You probably would have made that successful.
I don't know. Who knows? But I had this job. There was like a check coming in every week. So am I going to give that up for some pie in the sky show? You know? No.
Yeah.
The thing I admire about you the most, other than your skin, is that at 40, you decided to transition into stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big,
It's not an easy
That's
thing.
a total hard pivot.
Yeah, well, I was broke. I had no money. I had no husband. I had no job. I had nothing.
But content for
necessity is the mother of invention.
And when you have nothing, you say, you know what, I think I'll give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot.
And then I gave it a shot, and I started to do well.
Sometimes when you have nothing to lose, it's easier to
in
give
a way, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is easier.
If I didn't need the money, I might not have done it because it's too hard to do. But I was like a desperate dog. I had nothing.
A desperate dog. A desperate dog, Joy.
Freedom's just another word.
What nothing now? Left to lose.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can catch the rest of the Behind the Table podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great day, everyone. Take a little time to enjoy the weekend view.